welcome to the Insurance Buzz. This is your host, Michael Weaver, and your co-host, Courtney Weaver. We have a special guest with us today, Mr. Joshua Sharp. Joshua, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you.
There we go. Okay, so
this is take two. We are back in action. I'm going to ask the same question because Joshua's got a great answer here, and I know that Michael's going to lead in, but it's going to be good. All right. Let's set it up.
So who is Joshua before we got into insurance, man?
Well, before insurance, I grew up on the mean streets of Olathe, Kansas, and I thought I was going to be a rapper, and so I did that literally all the way through college. Thinking that my poetry was going to make it big time. Unfortunately, it wasn't great, so it wasn't a career I continued to pursue.
And we have to hear your rap name. I know I already know it, but everyone needs to experience.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that question again. Everyone always does that. But yes, it was a very tough name. I was DJ Big Bird. I know you can't see it now, but I am very tall. I'm 6'5". And so people used to call me Big Bird. Very weird. We did it with a Y, just to give it a little sauce.
I love that, man. So, are you can we find you on YouTube? Can we find you on the channels like DJ Big Bird in the house?
I don't want to give this away, but there wasn't YouTube and those things around when I was rapping.
There's so many things that you're like, oh, thank goodness there wasn't social media when I was that age.
You are correct. Pretty soon you won't even be able to listen to these because people don't have CD players anymore.
I know they're non-existent.
Oh, that's good, man. All right, so we went from DJing, all right,
Yeah.
and then where else? What else are you doing before insurance?
Yeah. So before insurance, I was a news reporter. I worked at Channel 9 News here in Kansas City. I wasn't very good at it. They escorted me off the premise at one point and had to get a new job. And there was a gentleman that was selling insurance who said, Josh, I think you'd be good at it. So here I am, I'm telling my mom that I'm going to get an insurance job. And she's like, I think your uncle did that. He didn't have a degree. And I'm like, no, they said I could make a lot of money doing it. I'm going to try it. And that was 18 years ago and fell in love with it. So
That's awesome. So I guess, was there anything that brought you into the insurance world besides, hey, they're telling me I can make a lot of money.
Yeah,
Sounds like a good opportunity.
Yeah, I would tell you it started out selfish. For me, I wanted to provide for my family. I was getting married, and I wanted time to spend with them. And I knew that insurance could provide that, right? And so when I jumped headfirst in, I was willing to work how many ever hours it took to accomplish that goal. As I later, got into the business, probably 4 to 5 years later, I realized how much of it was an opportunity for me to be an employer. As I started to own my own business, I really enjoyed the idea of giving other people opportunities, coaching them, and truly having the ability to change their trajectory through career, right? And so that's, as of recent, has been probably my 12-year passion, right? Because once you've achieved, it's like, well, what else can we do with this? And that's probably been the most fulfilling part of this business for me.
So when you're navigating, because now you're a district manager with
You are
farmers.
correct.
And so you're being able to really teach and pour into the agency force day in and day out. And we briefly chatted before we hopped on that you really love the big picture, the vision. So talk to me about kind of what your day-to-day looks like and what conversations or problems that you're seeing in agency that you're helping in that big picture vision, casting all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're thinking big picture, I think it really, you get the most of that in what I call the dream stage, which is recruiting. The reality is that there are a lot of people out there right now that are working in a job somewhere where they feel like they've reached the ceiling. They also feel like their input and their value is underappreciated, but they've developed a lot of skills. And frankly, they want to own a business, but there's a lot of fear of, well, what can I do? All I know is what I do. And what I found with insurance is that it relates to so many different fields to be successful. And so I would say a large part of my day is helping people dream. I've got a team who sets appointments for me with individuals who want to own businesses. I really don't care what their background is. I don't care what they've done in the past. I just want to know that they have an entrepreneur spirit, and then we can have a conversation. And sometimes those conversations lead to me helping them pursue a passion that they have. And sometimes I'm working with an individual that was a lot like myself. They know what the rewards of possibly owning a business would be, but they don't know exactly how their skills would fit into anything worthwhile. And so I love talking to those individuals because I can typically find some skills that easily relate to what could help them be successful as a business owner, especially in insurance. And so as we kind of continue down that path, another part of my day is working with my new agency owners. I consider these people who are less than 3 years. People who are less than 3 years in the business, there's a lot of anxiety a little bit, right? They can be very successful in their first 3 years and make a very good living, but they don't know what they don't know. They haven't gotten a couple of years worth of renewals built up. They're still in that phase of trying to figure out, did I hire the right staff people or did I just hire the person who could breathe, right?
Yeah. A body.
Exactly. They're still unlocking all of their potential. You know, they haven't even got into all the products they can sell yet, or don't even feel like they're an expert really. They're running really, really fast. And so I have a systematic way of counseling and working with those individuals. But I would say our number one topic is typically helping them project what will happen in the future. Typically they're running in a dark tunnel where they don't know that the light of victory is a lot closer than it seems. And my job is through experiences to help them see that, to have confidence in that, so they'll keep running fast and not prolong getting through that, what can feel like a dark tunnel. And then last but not least, the rest of my day is usually with building up my team. So I've got a team of consultants that partner with my agents. And when you're a leader, I always say, who pumps the leader, right? The leader is giving a lot of energy out. And so I like to give a lot of energy to my leaders that are out in the field. And typically it's just hearing their day, hearing their responses they've had and challenges, and encouraging them and helping them see the big picture. And then before you know it, I'm going home and trying to lead a household, you know.
Yeah.
And then we rinse and we do it again. So that's a typical day to day.
No, man, I love that, and I'm probably cutting you off, but you said a lot of really good things within there. And so the first thing that stood out to me was the skills for success. All right. So what do you find like the most successful agents you've been around, you've worked with? What type of, like, if you had to say 3 characteristics, 3 skills, what 3 things come to mind when you're looking for, man, you can just knock it out of the park in this industry?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's funny you asked me this question because I feel like I'm trying to explain this to my recruiter all the time. And if he was sitting here in this room, he'd be like, Josh, you change your mind every week. I'm like, I know, because there's so many attributes, you know. But I would say the first one is that an individual who's obviously willing to work hard. That phrase gets used a lot. Hey, I'm a hard worker. I'm a hard worker. But when I'm defining what hard work is, it's individuals who work till the job is done. You know, when we get into the insurance business, it's important to know that we are working to get the job done, not necessarily hard work. So what is that? How does that relate? So the way I look at it is that maybe you've got a goal for the day that you're going to talk to 5 people about their auto and home insurance. We'll just keep it really simple. A hard worker works until that's done. And it may take them longer in the beginning, but as they hone their skill, and it's funny to use the word skill because I feel like you can't just get a skill. Skill comes through repetition. So that's the second trait that I find is someone who's truly teachable, wanting to learn, looking to seek advice. So hard worker and teachable. The reason why teachable is so important is because through repetition, we can learn a skill. And I know that I can teach people the skills they need to win. But if an individual knows everything already and believes that the lenses that they came into this career with are the gospel, unfortunately, they're going to have a rude awakening. All of us, when we got into this industry, had something we thought of it that probably had to change course for us to be successful. And so I need someone who's truly teachable. And then I would say last but not least, obviously, someone who's willing to listen. Not from the teachable standpoint, but in their sales process, they're willing to listen to the prospect. They've got active ears, right? And so people say, I want someone who can really sell. And I'm like, I really need someone who knows how to listen. Listen to their prospects, understand them, right? And so when you think of those three traits, that is ridiculously hard to find on a resume, right? But those things can definitely be embedded in certain career paths. So to give you an example, I've had success with some teachers, not all teachers, but there have been some teachers who they know hard work. The reality is that they have to grade papers and get things done. You've never heard of, your son or daughter at the end of the year not having a grade because the teacher didn't finish the job. No matter what's going on, the papers get graded. That's a person who knows how to work hard. My question is, how do we tap into that in the interview, right? The next thing is a good teacher is teachable, right? They probably came into that school thinking one way about certain students or how they were going to do it, but the best teachers, they change with time to be able to be effective. And so I've got to ask questions to understand that in them. And then last but not least, listening to whether they're listening to me in the interview also helps. And so I've had a wide range of people from many different industries, but if I'm looking for those three things and evidence of it, that they're hardworking, that they're willing to be teachable, but most importantly to me, that they're individuals who listen, then respond, they're probably going to have a chance at being pretty successful in this deal.
I love that. I always say we were born with 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Yes, you're exactly correct.
Especially in sales, because and you're hitting on this, in sales it's really finding the need. And I think when you're talking about even recruiting, listening to that person, whether they're selling you in the interview, they're selling you on the resume, also being able to pick up, can I grab this and can I do something with this? Can I hone this skill? And I love that you hit on the skills for success, but you also said something about an entrepreneurial spirit. And
Yes.
I think that is kind of a wide net.
Yes.
I want to hear what your definition is of that.
Yeah, I would tell you that I think my view of entrepreneur spirit personally is probably different than every person I run into, because I feel like it's such a widely used word, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm an entrepreneur, and then you ask them about it, right? And nothing against this, but maybe they're selling some type of really cool diet pill on the side of another job. And although that could be considered an entrepreneur spirit, that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is an individual who is willing to leave something, like a job or a guaranteed income, to go do something that the hands, their mouth, their feet, their product, whatever, if it doesn't move, they're not making a living. Yeah. To me, that's an entrepreneur, right? And so, yes, people can have side gigs, they could do those types of things, but if they're not putting their all into it and not willing to do so, then that's a little different than maybe what I'm looking for as an entrepreneur spirit. And so in the entrepreneur spirit, I do believe that these individuals have vision. They can see things that other people around them cannot see. And if you have that entrepreneur spirit, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you see things, and when you say it to people, there's people around you that go, well, that's not possible. How's that going to work? I don't know if you should do that. If I were you, I would probably do it this way. You probably have the entrepreneur spirit if you're in a lot of conversations where you have vision and ideas and beliefs of ways that things can go, and other people around you think that you're crazy. The next thing for an entrepreneur spirit is action. Not only do these individuals have the vision, but they're also individuals who can put together the step-by-step steps that it would take for them to be successful. And then last but not least, they're willing to learn. And so while they're doing those step-by-step deals on the fly, they'll be willing to learn and also make changes to ultimately get to their end goal. So to me, that's an entrepreneur-spirited person. They have vision to see things that others around them can't. They have the ability to set goals in a way that allow them to strategically get to where they want to go. And if along the path, the things that they set out don't seem to work the way they thought, they don't retreat, they make adjustments, they learn from those mistakes, and they still keep going for that end goal. That's an entrepreneur spirit to me. So.
Yep.
Course correct. I love that, because you have to be adaptable, because you can have this vision and you can set these guideposts as these goals along the way, but you are going to hit potholes and roads
Yeah.
are going to be closed, and you're just going to have to navigate different circumstances and situations. But you're speaking my language, because this is very like abundant, open-minded, like this is what I'm looking for. You're very in tune to what you want, and how to teach that. So I want to know, who are your mentors, or who have you
Yeah.
learned from along the way?
You are correct. So it's funny you bring this up. What I was reading this morning was just talking about wise counsel, right? And so my mentor, first of all, was a farmer's district manager. He saw something in me that I didn't quite see in myself. I was at a low place where I had gotten let go from a job I wasn't good at, and he told me, "Hey, man, I think you'd be really good at insurance." And so I went in there lighthearted, just thinking that, you know what, if I worked really hard, I would get more money. But as I was working with him every day, he would point out things that I was doing well. And when I was making mistakes, he wasn't slamming me with those mistakes. He was like, "Oh, that's a good mistake. Oh, dude, you make that 3 more times, you're going to be awesome." And so little did I know that he would be the individual that I'd try to follow. And so I did not grow up with a lot of counsel. It wasn't something I saw in my own household, but he had counsel. I always thought it was weird that this man that I thought was successful would travel across the country, where he'd meet up with people that were in similar positions as him that he admired, and they would plan the next year together. And then you'd come back just jazzed up and excited. And I was like, man, why does he do that? I actually, at the time, I thought he was actually weak. I was like, man, my hero, he's kind of like listening to these other people, because I had never actually seen that demonstrated. I was a track guy. We worked by ourselves, right? No one even comes to track meets, so you even performed by yourself. But with that, it did show me when I got my own operation. I was struggling a little bit, and he invited me to go to that annual meeting he had, and I almost didn't go, and I went, and then that's when it hit me. I thought, oh man, this is not what weak people do. I'm like, this is what strong people do. Strong people surround themselves with people that are above them in thought process, have experienced things, and they bounce those ideas off of those people so they can get some wisdom before they just go and jump in. And so the group of people that I'm working with now, they're not actually all in the insurance industry. In fact, only one is. I have fortunately, some very successful friends here in the area. There's a developer, a commercial developer here in the area that I've been just hanging out with, and we meet every single Thursday. Another person in my group owns a few car dealerships here in the area. And another person in my group is actually a pastor of a church, a very large church. And so between those 3 individuals, they just have some skill sets and some habits that I like. And whenever I'm working, trying to make decisions on who I'm going to hire, how I'm going to train, a problem, these are individuals that I'm going to bounce that off of. And over the years, the group has evolved. It's changed as I've met new people through networking. It starts out with just coffees with those individuals, and then it's, hey, I don't know if you're aware of this, but once a month I've got a group of men that get together that own businesses that are successful. We hold each other accountable. You want to come to that? And so that group's growing now, and that's a part of my counsel. I would say my next piece would be reading, right? Got an Audible account. I've spent a lot of time in the car. And so I'm usually trying to read roughly 3 books a month through my drive time. And that helps me out a ton too. And it gives me something to talk to my people that I get the opportunity to mentor about as well. So,
What's your favorite book you've read this year?
You would ask that question.
Maybe not favorite,
Yeah,
just the one that comes to your mind.
You can't
'Cause
do
people,
that.
look, people ask me that all the time. I'm like, man, I've read a lot of good books. So maybe not your favorite. Just what's 1 or 2 books that come to your mind this year that stood out?
Yes. Well, one book that is my favorite this year, and it was surprisingly my favorite, and this will give you a little more background on me, but there's a book called Enemies of the Heart by Andy Stanley. It wasn't designed to be for business owners, I don't believe, but it hit me really hard. And it really goes down the avenue of checking why you might be angry. Sometimes our anger can be rooted in different things. And what I found is that I was having trouble with jealousy. When you're really competitive and you're trying to win and somebody else is beating you, right? Like there was a time where I was angry at that individual, but they didn't warrant my anger. They actually didn't deserve it. And it was only hurting me. And so what I got from that is to combat jealousy is compliments. You know, when someone has something you want or they're achieving something that you know is difficult and they're getting it, instead of putting them down or, you know, being mad about it, the best way to do it is to go up to them and let them know that. Like, Michael, dude, you've got one of the best podcasts on the planet. I used to hate on you. Got a beautiful family. No, I'm joking.
I'll receive that. I'll take that. We'll take that.
Yeah.
You got a full head of hair, and I was hating. And man, I've been working really hard and hope to get to that level. You find that when you do that, it lets it all go. You can get closer to people. You're not isolated and alone anymore, right? And so that one's been a big one for me. It's interesting because right now I'm like the worst. I got to pull up my Audible list, but I would tell you a majority of my readings right now have been spiritual. You know, I've been in a season where our industry, it's not easy, right? We're going through a time where our carriers are changing rates. We're going through a time where people are getting tight on budgets, and we have to keep things in perspective so that we don't make brash decisions while we're in this industry. You know, whenever we get into a hard market, I find my agents and some people can feel like, man, what am I doing? And so we just got to get settled within ourselves to make sure we're in the best position to lead others. So,
I love that. Thank you for sharing that and
yeah,
being super vulnerable and transparent. That's amazing. I want to circle back to some of those skills you talked about earlier: the hard work, the teachable, the good listener, and then you went on as well to say, and three things I grabbed from what you kind of look for is somebody all in, entrepreneur spirit. So all in, vision and action, which in the type of market that we're going into in this industry, I think that those are all skills that you're going to have to be all in. You're going to have a long-term vision, and you're going to have to be willing to take some massive action and be coachable along the way and an incredible leader. So in working till the job gets done, like you said, I think that's one thing that really gets overlooked in all small businesses. But when you say you're going to do something, do it. That's integrity to its core. Yeah. And so what are some things that you think insurance professionals, when you start looking at projections of trends into the future, and especially the immediate future, I think what the data is showing that I look at over the next 18 to 24 months, it doesn't matter what carrier you're with, as an insurance professional, you're going to be seeing consistent rate increases across the board. What can you as the insurance professional do, or what are you working with your agents to be as prepared as possible?
Absolutely. So when you think about our industry, you're absolutely right. I mean, it doesn't matter what journal you read or where you're getting your information from about insurance. Every carrier is going through profit issues, and they've got to do things to make sure their ship is right. And so as the individuals who are helping people make informed decisions on insurance, we don't control that. And so my biggest thing is control what we can control. And so the first thing that we can control as insurance professionals is how many people are we talking to? One thing I've loved about the insurance business is that when you simplify it down, I can show you at any company, the person who talks to the most people is most likely going to be the highest sales performer. And so I start there. So now we got to talk about who we talk to, what's affordable, and are we having good conversations, right? And there's so many ways to get people to talk to, so many ways that we could dive in on that. But the reality is that it does need to lead to people that we get the opportunity to ask every day whether they want to do business with us. And so the next thing we got to track is are we getting enough asks? You know, the reality is that there are agents out there that believe they have asks, but they really only have quotes, right? They've emailed something out, they're working on something behind the computer, but they haven't had a voice hitting an ear. Mm-hmm. And I've always said that the most efficient way to sell insurance is a voice hitting an ear. You can stumble into maybe a sale because of a text message, but I promise you it's inefficient. I promise you your agency will go upside down doing that type of stuff if that's all you do. And so for me, what people are saying to people is very important. And that's where I think what you guys do adds so much value. Because let's just say that you've got a close ratio right now where you're like, Josh, my close ratio is 4 out of 10, and it's really expensive to get those 10. I know that there's possibly a way where we could get that to 6 out of 10 if we change what you say, right? And so really concentrating on how many people we talk to, and then what are we saying when we actually talk to them? And then last but not least, are we going beyond just the entry point of which they came to our agency? There's a lot of entry points of which they come in, depends on how you're set up. Our typical entry point is going to be auto and home, right? Mm-hmm. But if we're really going to get the most out of this season, our business has got to be profitable too. And it's really profitable when someone goes beyond auto and home in your agency with your other products. And so if there's not staff people held accountable for that, systems, talk tracks put in place to ensure that that happens, and then also the monitoring of it and the coaching of it, then you're really missing out on what would be something that's controllable to you, which is maximizing the amount of revenue per household that you're bringing in. I find if people are focusing on those three things, they're going to find this season to be one of the greatest. Because in this season, I've seen where there's everyone shopping. And I'm counting on other agents to be hiding under their desk. That's what I'm counting on. I'm counting on that one agent that decided, I think I'm just going to golf this season. I'm going to give Alex or Sarah a raise and just tell them to man the ship. I'm hoping they do that because I'm going to be out there talking to their clients and providing information and services that frankly their agent's hiding from. So,
Yeah,
that just gave me goosebumps. I'm like, woo, yeah.
I can get fired up talking about this topic because we both can. I mean, we just had this conversation actually earlier today because what you're talking about is you're talking about quality conversation. So I just want to make sure like no one gets confused here. Like you're not saying like email out 10 quotes a day. You're saying have, let's say 3. That's what we quote, 3 quality conversations a day. Absolutely. Where you're quoting more products, more coverage, finding out what's important, building relationships, closing, actually asking for the sell, like that's part of a part of a conversation. No, and then obviously maximizing that point of sell. So great, you only help them out with auto home, or maybe it is auto home life on that upfront conversation. But then how do you continue to add value to the customer throughout the customer's tenure with you, so that they don't leave you when their rate does increase by a couple $100 a year?
You are correct. You're absolutely hitting the nail on the head. It's kind of the interesting part about our industry is that it is oversaturated with price only. That when we do recruit even our staff people in, by default, they are going to just be people who only talk about rate and numbers, right? Yeah. And so it is a skill that everyone has to learn when they come into this, no matter what type of salesperson you thought were before, because it's been ingrained in us before we got here. And I think what I have found is I always paint the illustration of Walmart. People say, yeah, I know Walmart, there's a value there. And I go, even the value store has value. They're like, what do you mean? I go, I just want you to walk down the toilet paper aisle for me. I go, you're going to find this crazy thing that not all the toilet paper is priced the same. It's unbelievable. Like there's actually a choice on what you will spend. And what's funny is if you look it up, Charmin ranks at the average cost per roll the highest, but yet they're the leader in the value store on sales. And what's weird is if I saw you walking in Walmart with Charmin in your basket, I'm not going to yell at you. You're paying too much, Michael. For less. I'm not going to do that. Right? But somehow in the insurance industry, that there's someone out there that thinks that that's what we're supposed to be doing. The reality is, and you've seen it over and over and over again, you actually become special when you actually start caring about what you're offering people and you start saying things that deep down inside they kind of know. Yeah, I kind of do need those coverages. Or, yeah, you're right. I kind of had an unsettling feeling about what we had before. You unroot that when you just stick to being a professional in this deal. So that's what we call it. Hey, be a professional. You got a license for a reason. Help people make good decisions, right?
Yeah, man. It's the order taker versus the sales professional.
Yeah, exactly.
if you build a culture around order takers and just saving people money, it's not a sustainable long-term business in my opinion. You're going to have high turnover, not only with clients, but also your employees, because they don't have a purpose. They don't have a passion. They just come to clock in 9 to 5, take some orders throughout the day. Like if you're having turnover problems, and it's not a team problem, it's a leadership problem. And so as the CEO, as the leader in the office, you really have to do a temperature check on yourself. Like, are you actually okay that your sales team can only close business if you save people money? And if that answer is yes, you have a serious culture problem.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. I would say we're in a season right now where we have to spend time every morning helping our staff, and for me, my agents, understand the industry, because sometimes you can get some tunnel vision, and just educating and making them proud to do what it is that they do, because you can get beat down a little bit if you don't.
Yeah,
So,
it's a tough industry, and if you don't know as a producer or as a leader the impact that it makes out into the world, it will swallow you whole, because these are people on their worst day calling you up. Or even if you're prospecting, I mean, people, how'd you get my number? Why are you calling me? So if you don't know what that translates into and the impact that it has out in the world, yeah, you're absolutely right. I want to talk about capacity a little bit. This is a word that we are hearing a lot, where people are saying that they're low on people. So my question to you is, do you truly feel that it's a capacity problem, or do you feel like it's more of a leadership and really grooming and pouring into our current people before we hire more people?
yeah, I think it could be both, but I want to qualify that by saying that good leaders typically don't have trouble filling their open spots. And I say that because I get to see a wide range of agency owners, right? And there's no doubt out there that there are many opportunities for people to be employed and get paid somewhere. And let's be frank, to come work on many of our insurance teams, you got to have a license. And your pay may be the same as another position that doesn't require you to have to take an exam to actually be a part of that organization. And so because that's a hurdle that we have as insurance business owners, right? It's so important that the atmosphere that we're creating makes people want to work for us, makes people want to grow on our growth path, right? And as we're doing that, I've always found that my staff will help me find other people, right? I've also found that my character in the community, if I post something out there on what I'm looking for, there are people who care about me that want to send good people to me. And they don't even care what the job is. It's, hey, that person is really good at what they do. They have a lot of success over there. I know you're looking. I know you're not in that industry, but at least talk to him. And that's really how I like to advertise for open positions. But frankly, I'm not really looking for the shortcut. I'm not looking for, oh, this person's already fully licensed and they used to work with this person. That's great. I will gladly interview them. But man, I love finding individuals who have their mind set on a career somewhere and showing them what a career in insurance and where it could lead them. I find that now I'm taking an individual that maybe wouldn't apply to anywhere else, and we're turning them into an individual that's going to be amazing for us. And so I think there can be both. I think that, yeah, there's a lot of people out there shopping around. There's a lot of people who want to work from home. I haven't personally figured out how to have my team work from home full time. I've made flexible schedules. And so I find, like, as I'm competing out there today, that I do have to work a little bit harder at helping people understand our vision and where we're going, and why maybe some of the comforts that they're leaving would be worth leaving those comforts, right? So hopefully that answers your question. But in short, good leaders typically don't have a shortage of people who want to work for them. So
Yeah, that's true. I love how it's really this repayment too, when you think about your story and somebody extending an opportunity to you.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're doing. That's your impact out into the world now, is just repaying the favor that was given, the opportunity, I should say, that was given to you. So I think that that's fantastic.
Definitely.
It's a very noble profession, and I think that's and that's what we're continuous. That's what we've been talking about on this whole episode. Almost is like it's a really noble profession if you go into it that way, and then if you, the leader, view it that way, and you've got the processes in place, you build a culture around you that also believes in that and does the things necessary to continue building that culture, which means that you're never going to have any employee problems.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've had a blast just hiring people, seeing where they go. Recently, a person who worked for me for 7 years just got their opportunity to own their own district, and they moved to Wichita. And it's interesting because, like, as this individual worked for me, I knew they had it, and like I knew that they were valuable to my team. And when they got their opportunity to leave, there was a part of you that wanted to make their pot so sweet that they couldn't go on, right? Like, I really need you. I need vacation time, and you help me with that, right? That type of low mentality. But I went out to this particular person's opening of their office in Wichita, and it went full circle. You know, she got engaged that month. Her younger sister had moved up to Wichita and was going to start working for her operation. I got to see the people that she had hired and how much they admired her and her leadership. And it was like, man, none of this would have been possible if I would have smothered her. And sometimes that can happen in our industry where leaders can tell people what they can't do. And what I found is that when you tell people what they can do and help them get there, the end result may be that they move on to a position that better fits them. But I've always found on the back end what I didn't see was how much, you know, I was blessed on the back end with people to fill that spot, how much I grew, how much more my agency was able to do that never would have happened if I would have smothered their fire. And so I've definitely enjoyed that. And I've got countless stories of people who've gone on to do what I consider bigger and better things for them, right? And then I've had people who've stayed within my organization and thrive being in it. And I've seen them grow and stretch themselves as well. And that to me is what wakes me up every day, right? When I'm thinking about losing revenue, I'm not thinking about myself losing money. I'm thinking about the fact that, man, I need to create opportunities for these young men and women to make more money in my operation, right? Like, I don't like going into another year thinking I don't have room for raises. So we need to figure out how we're going to make room for raises and growth here. So.
Oh, this has been so good, so good, because exactly what you're talking. I mean, true like leadership, I believe, is those folks that are with you. They need to be better than they were before they came to work with you, and so and that's exactly what you're explaining. I love that, and meeting that person where they're at.
Yeah,
But
servant leadership for sure.
But Joshua, we want to be obviously very respectful of your time. So if somebody wanted to connect with you, what would be the easiest way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the easiest way to connect with Joshua is a text message. Man, I'm always got my phone in front of me. So I'll throw that number out. It's 913-744-1449. You could also connect with me, obviously, via Facebook or LinkedIn. I do have a team that reads those, and so it's easier if you just text me. Right. So that's it. That's how you get a hold of Joshua.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we put that in the show notes as well. If you all enjoyed this episode, because I don't know how you didn't. Joshua's over here dropping freaking golden nuggets all over the place.
Fired up.
Getting buzzed on the buzz today. Make sure you give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it. Tell your peers about it. Joshua, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys, and look forward to possibly meeting you guys outside of these video walls, right?
I know, in the real world.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, you're close. We'll definitely make that happen. So, and for all of those that are listening, obviously, as always, time is the most valuable and important asset that we all have. We appreciate you spending time with us today. Joshua, thanks again, my man.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Have a good one.